Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. According to General Hospital teasers for the upcoming 3 weeks, from June 2nd to June 20th, Giovanni Gio Palmieri will be dealing with a broken heart while Drew Kane's downfall begins. Additionally, Christina Corinthos Davis' situation will worsen. So let's discuss all the tight areas and impending confrontation. Gio will face Gloria and Lois Cerullo over his covert adoption during the remainder of the week of June 2nd to 6th. Now that Gio is aware that the people he loves have deceived him, it will be difficult for him, and he will need to vent his anger. Despite not knowing that Gio was her son, Brooklyn Quartermain gave him up and will continue to face criticism for it. Meanwhile, there will be significant drama due to the custody dispute. Willow and Michael Corinthos will be prepared to defend their kids, but there will be some surprises at the courthouse. Drew and Willow will be caught off guard when Carly Spencer eventually reveals Nina Reeves to be the mastermind behind the Drew drugging scheme. The destiny of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos will be decided by the judge, but Rick Lansing and Diane Miller will go to great lengths for their clients. Unfortunately, Sasha Corbin's time on the stand will cause the court procedures to go awry. Given that we know Sasha is going to lose it emotionally and go into early labor, Rick might start asking her questions about paternity. It won't be long until Carly confronts Jason Morgan about his impersonation of a father, because Michael will instantly go into protective father mode. In the meantime, Elizabeth Baldwin will be asked to marry Lucky Spencer. Will she accept his proposal? According to GH teasers, Lucky will examine himself and come to terms with a terrible reality about himself. Lucky might have to think about if he's forcing himself into the box of getting married if Liz rejects his ring. Since Lucky isn't exactly suited for a stable, straightforward existence on PC, it's possible that he will soon find himself traveling the world once more. In any event, Lucky will have some difficult subjects to consider. Christina's crisis will continue to worsen in the interim. Alexis Davis will find it difficult to conceal her embezzlement, particularly in light of Marco Rios's numerous inquiries and suspicions of money laundering. Alexis will continue to do everything in her power to keep Christina safe, even though she will have to put out more fires along the road. Anna Devane might have something new to tell Jason after questioning Jack Brennan about his knowledge. We'll discover if this relates to Sonny Corinthos' enigmatic enemy, because Anna will ultimately express some doubts during her next conversation with Jason. Following the judge's likely decision, there will be additional custody case fallout during the week of June 9th to 13th. Who is going to win, Willow or Michael? Michael will worry for Sasha and their unborn child in either case. There might be some frightening scenes even though it's unlikely that the show would be ruthless enough to send another of Sasha's kids to a terrible end. As for Drew, once Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson find Jacinda, his demise might start. This might be the start of Curtis losing run because he intends to use Jacinda to hopefully neutralize Drew. It's obvious that Drew must begin to pay for all of his deceptive actions. There will probably be more WSB activity over the week of June 16th to 20th. Jocelyn Jacks will have the access she requires thanks to her summer research assistant position. But will Professor Henry Hank Dalton become suspicious of her true motivations? Emma Scorpio Drake will harbor resentment and might develop an obsession with discovering Jocelyn's real intentions. In any case, this endeavor will ultimately bring Jocelyn and Vaughn closer. So soon, some passion might explode. He'll have a lot to think about once he's back with Gio since he'll be caught between wanting to avoid his family and seeking their approval. Gio will need some time to warm up to Brooklyn and Dante Falconeri, but Rocco Falconeri might be able to help. Maybe it will help Gio be more open to connecting with Dante and Brooklyn as well, since Rocco will undoubtedly want to see Gio as a brother eventually. Harrison Chase will probably put pressure on Gio to give Dante and Brooklyn a fair shot at some time. We'll see if Chase's attempts are successful because he will want to put things right in some way. She will have a delightful gift to give Brennan when she returns with Carly. There may be an unforeseen post-surgery problem to be concerned about because Trina Robinson will also need to comfort Kai Taylor. According to General Hospital spoilers, there will be some shocks over the following 3 weeks, so stay tuned for any updates on any significant news. In ways no one could have foreseen, Port Haven's complex web of relationships, aspirations and betrayals was about to fall apart. Formerly the town's golden kid, Drew Carmichael was on the verge of failure. He had survived innumerable controversies thanks to his charm and wit, but this time the stakes were higher than ever. Little and nearly inaudible at first, the whispers had begun months ago and had now swelled into a thunderous boom. Drew had always been a skilled manipulator, using a sly smile and a well-timed falsehood to bend circumstances to his will. Even so, he was unable to escape the repercussions of his conduct indefinitely. It started with a bad trade. Because he thought he was untouchable, Drew had always dabbled in dangerous endeavors. However, the consequences were disastrous when his most recent plan, a risky investment that was supposed to double his wealth, failed. The money belonged to influential people who didn't take treachery lightly, so it wasn't simply his. The vultures circled, his reputation dissolved, and his allies disappeared overnight. The same friends who had toasted his success and laughed at his jokes suddenly pulled away out of fear of being linked to his shame. Even his family, who had grown tolerant of his careless actions, was no longer able to support him. His father's harsh warnings had arrived too late, and his mother's heartfelt entreaties for him to change were met with silence. Drew had risked everything, and now all he had left was the sobering knowledge that he was solely responsible for his own demise. Gio Martinez, meantime, was ensnared in an emotional whirlpool he never anticipated. He has been the pillar of support for years, steadfast, trustworthy, and fiercely devoted. But his heart was exploding beneath that serene facade. Elena, the love of his life, had left because she couldn't handle the burden of his secrets. Gio had always thought that by hiding the truth, he was protecting her, but in reality he had distanced himself from her. The irony was harsh. She had lost faith in him because of the same things he had done to protect her. He felt empty after Elena departed, doubting every choice he had ever made. Had he been a fool to believe that his love for her and his fidelity to his family could coexist? It had all been too much. The late-night phone calls, the mysterious absences, the falsehoods he told to hide his brother's risky activities. Gio now understood the price of his decisions as he stood in the deserted flat where they had formerly lived. He was made fun of by the framed pictures on the wall, which depicted happy times that seemed to have passed ages ago. He had lost the one person who really mattered because he had spent so much time trying to please everyone. Then there was Lucky. Lucky, the youngest of the three, had always been the wild card, the one who flirted with danger but never quite got into it. However, destiny had a way of catching up, and Lucky's easygoing demeanor was going to be put to the ultimate test. A series of events that would permanently change his life had been triggered by a fortuitous meeting with an enigmatic stranger at the docks. With no explanation, the stranger, a woman with a knowing smile and piercing green eyes, had given him an envelope. A single key and an address, pointing to a long-abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, were found inside. Lucky had always been prone to curiosity, and this time was no exception. What he discovered within would make him face a past he had avoided for years. His father's secrets were kept in the warehouse, along with a heritage that was both a boon and a bane. For the first time in his life, Lucky had to choose between accepting the part that fate had prepared for him and continuing to aimlessly wander through life. He was afraid of the decision, but he knew in his heart that there was no going back. The people of Port Haven prepared for the impending storm while Drew's world fell apart around him. Gio struggled with the remains of his heart, and Lucky stood at the fork in the path of his future. Their lives were woven together in ways they were not yet aware of, and the decisions they made in the days ahead would permanently shape who they were. Drew's conceit had prevented him from seeing that nobody was unbeatable. His demise was caused by a lifetime of thinking he was above the law, not simply one poor choice. He had personal debts in addition to financial ones, and those he had harmed were unwilling to remain silent any longer. Drew Carmichael, who had previously been invincible, was about to discover the hard way that pride always precedes failure. However, Gio had to confront a different sort of reckoning. Even if his anguish was more subdued and inward, it was nonetheless heartbreaking. Neither wealth nor influence could bring him back the love he had lost. He needed to face the man he had become and determine if he was prepared to change. Would he fight for the lady who had once been everything to him, or would he keep hiding behind duty and obligation? The response would decide whether he found the strength to mend what he had destroyed or stayed mired in his own regrets. Then there was Lucky, on the precipice of a destiny he had never dreamed of. The key in his hand represented the decisions that lay ahead, and was more than simply a tangible item. He had always taken the easiest route, but now for the first time he felt the weight of accountability. The warehouse's mysteries were only the first step. He could assume a position of influence and power if he accepted them. However, that power had a cost, one that could deprive him of the freedom he valued most. The town of Port Haven has always been a location of secrets and unexpected collisions between the past and present. Even though Drew, Geo, and Lucky were only 3 participants in a much bigger game, their tales were about to collide in a way that would rock the community as a whole. Drew's demise marked the start of something more sinister rather than merely its conclusion. The people he had brought down with him would not leave peacefully, and the enemies he had made would not stop until he had made amends. Once uttered in awe, his name would soon come to represent treachery. Geo had a lot more suffering to endure. Every day without Elena served as a reminder of what he had lost, and her absence was like a wound that would not go away. But love had a way of lasting, even after it was broken. The only way to know if it could be fixed was to wait. Furthermore, the future of Lucky was still up in the air. He held a key that was both a warning and a promise. The path ahead would be perilous, with decisions that would put his courage, loyalty, and identity to the test. One thing, though, was for sure. His carefree youth was finished. The 3 men stood on the brink of their different fates as the sun sank over Port Haven, illuminating the peaceful streets with long shadows. Joe's heart was still broken. Drew was on the verge of collapse, and Lucky's future was in jeopardy. The community waited for the storm to pass, holding its breath. Nothing would ever be the same once it happened. Both parties are ready for a fierce battle, and this instance is no different. The hearing may rekindle old scars if Carly and Sunny are involved in the divorce. There may be no turning back now, but their love has been a wild one filled with passion, treachery, and reconciliation. The split of their commercial interests alone would destabilize the Corinthos empire and have far-reaching effects. On the other hand, the aftermath can be equally dramatic if the hearing involves another pair, like Elizabeth Weber and Finn, or Nina Reeves and Valentine Cassadine. There is plenty of material for a heated court dispute because of Nina's recent plots, Valentine's manipulations, Elizabeth's mental instability, and Finn's battles with addiction. Whatever the case, the divorce hearing will surely reveal long-hidden facts and make everyone responsible for their conduct face the repercussions. In conclusion, with Jason's last-ditch efforts to save Carly, Alexis' struggle for her freedom, and a potentially life-altering divorce court, Port Charles is once again a dramatizing place. Although each plot line has its own significance, taken as a whole, they create a tapestry of loyalty, atonement, and betrayal. Jason has to face the boundaries of his power as he works to handle Carly's problem in a hurry. Alexis, on the other hand, knows that failing may mean losing everything, therefore she must fight for her life to cleanse her name. Additionally, long-kept truths could irreparably ruin relationships as the divorce case progresses. One thing is certain. The events set in motion by these crises will leave no one unaffected in a town where alliances change like the wind and danger lurks around every turn. Who will survive the fallout is the only question. Willow was quick to move into Drew's new house, with her and Michael Corinthos' kids in tow, and Nina and Carly desperately tried to work together to split them apart. Sadly, their partnership was short-lived, but not without Nina spilling to Carly that she was the one behind Drew's recent ketamine scandal that rocked the little town. Whatever page they had once landed on was shredded to bits after threats were issued and punches were thrown. The two also had a heated confrontation during the nurses' ball in the bathroom, where Nina was quick to gloat about the fact that Michael wouldn't win sole custody of the kids, due to his accident. Michael submitted an emergency petition to gain custody of his kids, and was able to take his children out of Willow's care ahead of the custody battle. This was a huge score for #Team Michael, but considering there's that secret lingering about Michael being Sasha Corbin's baby daddy, nothing is in the bag right now. During the GH preview for the week of June 2nd, a clip shows Carly declaring that Nina was the one who had Drew drugged. Rick Lansing can be seen in the courtroom background, and this spilling of the tea will only cause drama and chaos within Willow's world. According to the General Hospital spoilers on Tuesday, June 3rd, we will hear Sonny Corinthos' apologies and Rick Lansing's urgent phone call. Here's what GH fans should anticipate. Jocelyn Jacks will also be saved when someone stands up for her. Jordan Ashford and Jen Sidwell will first praise Professor Henry Hank Dalton for his groundbreaking concepts on Tuesday's GH episode before Jordan spends some time with him one-on-one. Jocelyn's defender on Tuesday's episode will be Trina Robinson. Trina may defend Jocelyn if Emma Scorpio Drake begins to level charges regarding her sabotage as a research assistant. Fans of GH are aware that Jocelyn actually did undermine Emma and take her place, but only because she had to finish her WSB assignment no matter what. Now that Dante Falconeri is aware that Giovanni Gio Palmieri is his son, he will confide in Sunny about all of his difficult feelings. Presumably as a result of their own difficult path to a father-son bond, Dante will express regret to Sunny. Dante will confide in Sunny and seek advice now that he has a better grasp of Sunny's perspective. Sunny will have the opportunity to talk about the Gio situation, Michael Corinthos' return, and the impending custody dispute when Jason Morgan connects with him later. Jason will then have to deal with some controversy around Carly Spencer. Carly will maintain that she will stop at nothing to ensure that her grandchildren end up with Michael rather than Willow Corinthos. Naturally, Jason will urge Carly to exercise caution, because Michael's custody dispute has a lot on the line. Jason might encourage Carly to simply let Michael handle things with Diane Miller's help now that her son has returned. But at some point this week, Carly will reveal a big secret. Nina Reeves is the mastermind behind Drew Kane's drugging scheme. Marco Rios just alluded to money laundering charges, which Alexis Davis will address across town. Marco is obviously worried that Alexis is going too far, but he will apologize if he is going too far. Alexis might insist that everything is under control and pressure Marco to simply quit. Stay tuned for updates on any concerning news that may arise as a result of Marco's probing. On the phone, Rick will seem urgent and insist that someone go to the courthouse immediately. Given that he is going to deliver more orders to Alexis, it is probable that Rick will insist on meeting with her in person. However, if there is a blackmail hitch, Rick might call an Ava Jerome, or this could involve someone else involved in the custody chaos. Gio will intervene in the altercation that Brooke Lynn Quartermaine has been having at the Quartermaine residence with Lois and Gloria Cerullo while Willow and Michael are in court. Gio will stomp off to stew over the entire issue after grilling all three of them and voicing his opinions fiercely. After learning that Camilla Palmieri was terminally ill, Brooke Lynn will question Lois and Gloria about if they pressured her to remain silent. Gloria and Lois might have persuaded Camilla to keep his true parentage a secret if she had decided to confess to Gio. According to General Hospital teasers, Brooke Lynn will remain enraged by this betrayal of her family and hope that Gio would eventually show her his heart. The emergency call from Rick to Jocelyn's help. Rick Lansing's knuckles were white from the power of his grip on his phone during the tense night. His face's precise lines were highlighted by the screen's faint glow, creating shadows that reflected the chaos in his head. The situation weighed on him like a physical force, making every second that passed seem like an eternity. Only a few minutes had passed since he received the call, yet it was enough to hurl his entire world into disarray. Every instinct in his body begged him to take action now because Jocelyn was in peril. With the phone placed firmly against his ear, he paced the length of his flat, breathing in short, irregular bursts. Rick could hear the underlying urgency, the hidden need for quick action, even if the voice on the other end was composed and methodical. He knew when time was running short since he had experienced enough life-or-death situations. In every manner that mattered, Jocelyn was family, not just anybody. He could not handle the idea that something may happen to her. It was a nightmare he would not let to come true. "Where is she?" Rick's voice was low yet piercing as he ordered. A new surge of adrenaline rushed through his veins at the response. Although he had a location, it wasn't ideal. People would go to this deserted warehouse on the outskirts of town if they didn't want to be discovered, or if they didn't want their victims to be discovered. His thoughts were constantly racing, figuring out the quickest path, possible dangers, and unknowns that could make this rescue attempt a complete failure. But there was no room for hesitation. That privilege was not available to Jocelyn. Then he reached for his jacket and jerked his arms through the sleeves. He already had his revolver in its holster, a comfortable weight on his side. He wasn't foolish enough to enter unarmed, but he also didn't intend to use it. Rick wasn't going to undervalue the dangerous individuals who had taken Jocelyn. They weren't amateurs. His foot was heavy on the pedal as he swerved through traffic, making the drive to the warehouse a blur. He was thinking incoherently, a mixture of terror and resolve. His thoughts were filled with flashbacks of Jocelyn, her humor, her obstinacy, and the way she never backs down. Despite her might, everyone had their limitations. Rick wouldn't let her deal with whatever it was she was dealing with at the moment. He killed the engine as he approached the warehouse, his heart thumping more loudly in the unexpected calm. Ahead, the building loomed, its crumbling walls and damaged windows bearing witness to years of neglect. Isolated, forgotten, and out of sight, it was the ideal setting for a kidnapping. Rick's jaw tensed as he looked about, his trained eyes identifying possible openings and dangers. He had no room for error. Not right now. His body tensed with anticipation. He moved quickly but discreetly to the side entrance. He could see a glimmer of darkness calling him inside, and the door was slightly open. His senses sharp, he paused only a moment before slipping through. The interior was far worse than he had anticipated. The floor was covered in debris, the air was heavy with dust, and there was a subtle metallic smell of blood. The idea of what Jocelyn might have gone through here made his stomach turn. Then from farther within the warehouse, he heard it, a muffled sound. A voice. The voice of Jocelyn. Before his mind could properly register the sound, his body began to move, and his pulse began to spike. His strides were cautious yet frantic as he followed the noise, every muscle tensed with anticipation. Her voice grew clearer as he approached. Despite the dread that surely lingered beneath the surface, she was arguing with someone in a combative tone. That was Jocelyn, never giving up even when things got dangerous. After turning a corner, Rick eventually caught sight of her. Jocelyn's face was damaged, but her eyes were flaming with rage, and she was strapped to a chair with her wrists chained behind her back. Rick knew the man standing over her right away. He was an old foe of Sonny Corinthos, a man who harbored resentment and had nothing left to lose. The parts came together with a click. This was retaliation, plain and clear. It wasn't just any kidnapping. The man was still concentrating on Jocelyn, taunting her with a voice full of hate, and hadn't noticed Rick yet. Rick didn't hold out. He moved forward with ease, leveling his rifle at the man's head and drawing it. With an icy tone, Rick stated, "Let her go. Now." His eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed into a sneer as the man froze. "Lansing, I should have anticipated your arrival." "Last warning," snarled Rick. The room was silent for a moment, the tension so heavy it was oppressive. Then the man lifted his hands in surrender and muttered a curse. Not until Jocelyn was securely bound and stood next to him, her body shaking but her spirit unwavering, did Rick drop his revolver. "Are you all right?" With the tinge of anxiety still present behind the words, Rick asked in a calmer tone. Jocelyn's fingers tightened around his arm as she nodded. "Thank you." Rick remained silent. Later, when they were well out of sight and he was certain she was secure, there would be time for words. Getting her out of here was the only thing that mattered at the moment. The burden on Rick's shoulders didn't quite go away when they ventured out into the darkness. This was not the end of it. Rick knew that this was not the end of the story. The man who had taken Jocelyn was only one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Jocelyn was safe for the time being though, and that was plenty. There was less noise on the journey back, and the excitement gradually subsided, leaving behind a bone-deep tiredness. Leaning against the window, Jocelyn's eyes were far away but brimming with the fire that had always characterized her. Rick continued to focus on the road, already planning the next course of action. Who was responsible, what was their ultimate goal, and how to ensure that Jocelyn was never in danger like this again. Because he knew that before he allowed anything to happen to her, Rick Lansing would burn the entire globe to the ground. Social media erupted with debates, some condemning Nina as a master manipulator, others defending her as a victim of character assassination. The public, always hungry for scandal, dissected every detail, forming factions that mirrored the divisions inside the courtroom. Back in the trial, Carly's gamble began to pay off. A surprise witness, a former associate of Nina's, came forward with damning testimony, alleging that Nina had bragged about controlling Drew. The witness's credibility was immediately attacked by the defense, but the impact was undeniable. The jury's expressions shifted from skepticism to grim consideration. As the day's proceedings drew to a close, The judge announced that the trial would resume after a short recess, leaving the courtroom in a state of suspended tension. Carly exhaled, her hands trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. She had thrown the first stone, and there was no turning back. Drew, still reeling, locked eyes with Nina across the room, searching for any sign of remorse. But her gaze was cold, unyielding. The truth was still obscured by shadows, but one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same between them. Whether Nina was guilty or innocent, Carly's accusation had shattered the fragile illusions that had held their world together. And as the battle for justice raged on, the real question remained. Who would be left standing when the dust finally settled? Jocelyn Jacks and Tracy Quartermain are among them, and they will both destroy Willow. Harrison Chase will testify as well. Given how well known this case is, all of the witnesses will be subjected to challenging questions. Willow and Michael both desire their kids. Michael actually leaps to his feet and rushes to Sasha in the witness box. With a distressed expression, Sasha informs him that the kid is on the way. If Sasha's baby has the same congenital heart problem as Michael, the truth might be revealed at the hospital if it isn't already. Exposing Nina Reeves. Carly, who tells Drew who drugged him, will also be there. Carly knows Nina was at fault, but she doesn't know Jacinda. When Carly reveals Nina to Drew and the rest of the court in the preview video, Nina's mouth falls open. Portia Robinson may be the next to be removed as a result of this. What does that signify for Portia's future in medicine? In the week of June 2, 2025, which narrative are you most excited to see? The most recent General Hospital spoilers for Monday, June 2nd to Friday, June 6th are available on soaps.com. Brooke Lynn lashes out just when we thought she could get much more irate. In addition, Nina has a confession to make as Carly confronts Jason. Continue reading for that and more Port Charles drama. In today's recap, Brooke Lynn snaps at Lois and Gloria, Gio looks to Sunny for clarification, and Elizabeth forgives Lucky for not telling her the truth about her accident. Elizabeth discovers something. Christina and Michael get back together. Brooke Lynn lets loose her rage. In the hot seat is Alexis. Sunny gives advice. With her problems behind her, ex-Molly is ready for a comeback, and it's never too late to start over. Spoilers for Tuesday, June 3rd on General Hospital. The hearing for Michael and Willow's divorce starts. Sunny confides in Jason. Trina stands up for Jocelyn. Rick gives Alexis a hard hand. Jordan gets to know Dalton better. Meet the new Mrs. Jack Wagner, the General Hospital vet who vows "I do" before the return of Bold and Beautiful. Spoilers for Wednesday, June 4th on General Hospital. Lulu and Brooke Lynn meet in person. Elizabeth is taken by surprise by Lucky. Michael stands up. Chad Duell prepares for a return as spectacular as Michael's. Brennan is under pressure from Anna. Sunny and Laura talk about family issues. Thursday, June 5th. Spoilers for General Hospital. Lucky must face a harsh reality. Anna tells Jason about her suspicions. A family get-together is hosted by Curtis and Portia. Sasha feels overburdened. Willow gets to work. Friday, June 6th. Spoilers for General Hospital. Jason is confronted by Carly. Molly and Cody become more acquainted. Jordan meets with Curtis. Nina admits something. Drew is devastated. According to General Hospital spoilers, many viewers genuinely think that Michael and Sasha are endgame, and for good reason. For all the information you require, continue reading below. Sasha and Michael are endgame. Sasha was the one who pushed for Michael and Willow to be married in order to shield Wiley from Nell. As many critics of the popular ABC soap opera have noted, that was how much she adored Michael. Furthermore, it's likely that Willow and Chase have been in love for a long time. She may have loved Michael as a friend, but she wasn't in love with him. Their relationship was simply intense. The internet had a lot to say about the issue on social media, as our readers are likely already aware. Michael and Sasha in a sweet happy ending for both, is one statement that several people have made. And she is already loved and appreciated by all the QS, unlike Willow. It would also help with Carly and Nina's management. She is near both of them. What will happen to Michael and Sasha next?